Hello and welcome to this extra little thing that I've put together. You remember that we were talking in the Superman 2 episode in relation to perspective. So as far as perspective is concerned, and I'm going to quote the definition here, which is the art of representing three-dimensional objects on a two-dimensional surface as if to give the right impression of their height, width, depth, and position in relation to each other. Now, that's the official version. And as far as filmmaking is concerned, that's always the case as well. So we'll use Superman as an example. So you've got Christopher Reeve as the character, and he would be involved in a certain amount of setups as far as flying were concerned, whether it was just leaving shot or arriving into shot, and that was using wires, cranes, or simple harnesses that were placed on him so when he pushed up to leave he would disappear out of shot. Then of course you would have Vic Armstrong, who would be doing a great deal more perhaps of that second unit doubling, physical flying that he would be doing away from camera, into camera, on cables, or anything that would suggest that it was too dangerous for Chris to do, or he didn't need to do it. He was busy on the production and was needed in other departments, so therefore they brought Vic in. But then, of course, when you've got those two, and we talked about Val Mazzetti as well on Superman 2 the other week. Again, a shot that wasn't necessarily needed to be done by Chris coming out of Niagara Falls. But when you've utilised all of those, there are still shots that need to be got in the can that will provide the audience with that moment where they have a breath. You know, they take a short, sharp intake of breath and go, wow, okay, this is amazing. Look at this. That's very clearly a real person. But how do you do that? Well, you use perspective. You create a set, you build it in relation to everything else around it, and therefore it would be maybe too small for your average height or average sized double or actor. Therefore they have to bring in somebody who is slightly smaller because of the perspective. The individual that we were initially referring to, and I said that there was a connection between Superman and Raiders of the Lost Ark, is a guy called Kiran Shah. Now Kiran has been a actor and stunt man since the mid-70s, probably mid-1977, something like that. He is 1 meter 26 tall, and for those of you who don't do the maths, that's 4'2". And he's been would have been a perspective double, certainly in a lot of some of those flying sequences where maybe it's a real shot and is a real building, but you want the idea that it's much further away, so you create that in camera. Again, nowadays with the Superman pictures and all of the superhero movies, they can do it with CGI, but back then you had to do it for real. So he would be the one who maybe would be suspended from the crane and would be swung around the corner of a building, or would be swung out of shot. Now of course, it's done in such a way that the editor is the key to all of this. He can just take a moment of that and edit that together with Christopher Reeve's performance, either in the live action or against the plate or the green screen that they were using to create that scene. So all of these elements together are massively important. He was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he played Abu. If you remember in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's the guy who he's responsible for poisoning the dates, right? So he obviously poisons the dates and then delivers them to the table, and they are meant for Indy, but the little monkey gets it instead. So that, you know, he's in that. That's the connection between the two, but has been in a number of productions as a main stunt double or perspective stunt double. And when I say that, I refer also to The Lord of the Rings. Great example. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, Kieran was the size double for all of the leads, so all of the hobbits. He was responsible for that, and he's also the guy in that huge cinematic classic that was Bullseye, starring Roger Moore and Michael Caine. He's the guy at the auction that keeps going, "What did they say?" That was him. So, you know, I mean, really, we're talking big stuff here. But I mean, he's been involved in all sorts of extraordinary pictures, whether it be Star Wars pictures, whether it be sci-fi, but you name it, he's done it from a perspective point of view. He's often confused with another guy who you will have seen a great deal of, called Deep Roy. I don't know what his original name is, but that is what he is known as. His professional title is called Deep Roy. He is 1 meter 33 or 4'4" in old money, and both of them are from Kenyan Indian heritage. And you would have seen him. He's all of the Oompa Loompas in Tim Burton's version of Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's in Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, and he's also the Italian assassin who's trying to knock off Clouseau in Pink Panther Strikes Again, one of the little fella, right? So, you know, he's very, very simple to be able to spot and drop into these situations. But he was also, another interesting fact here, and I think it was going to be on Empire Strikes Back, he was one of the Yoda doubles. So there's the puppet, there is the physical double, again, from perspective, if you need to see Yoda moving or walking through shot, and it isn't something that can be done by the puppet's perspective, then he would have done it. And so these guys are the guys that really kind of drag all this thing together and create that perspective, not on their own. Obviously, there's going to be a number of them working in the business, but these two have been prolific in their work over the years. But I'm very conscious of the fact that they're both in their mid-60s. They're still working, but they're both in their mid-60s. And there's a new breed on the streets. And certainly as far as the UK is concerned, we've had a guy called Paul Lowe. Lowy, he is known as to his friends, and you know, he does huge amounts of work on all sorts of stuff. He started, as many do, doubling children, and was the Alex double on, was it Mummy Returns? Mummy Returns in 2001, and has since gone on to the most extraordinary work. Most recently, you remember the Tim Burton Dumbo movie. Well, okay, so there was a motion capture double, but Paul was the stunt double for that. There's a sequence in the film, and I use this purely as an example because I'm remembering it off the top of my head, but there's a sequence in the movie where the elephant falls out of a train carriage down the little ramp and sits there at the bottom. Paul does this, and you have to think very differently when you're doubling an individual. Okay, fair enough. Doubling an elephant? Really? Where's the book about how I double elephants? No, so you have to study them. You know, you have to study their movements, and be in contact with those creature guys, the people who are, you know, from Planet of the Apes, that sort of stuff, and they create that creature movement. So to understand all of that is extraordinary. As a stuntman, he's worked on all sorts of productions, and most recently has been the stunt coordinator on the new Peter Dinklage movie Cyrano, and of course was his double for some of those sequences. He's currently working on yet another Willy Wonka. Is it a reboot? No, it's because it's set previously, so it's a prequel, I'm assuming, which is starring Timothy Chalamet, and the movie's called Wonka, and the new Robert Zemeckis picture, which is Pinocchio, and the one that has Tom Hanks, I believe, as Geppetto. He is the stunt coordinator on both of those, and for many of us, he will be regarded as one of the stunt doubles for Thor. Yes, Thor. I know you're sat there going, wait a second. He's not the stunt double for Thor. He was one of the doubles for Thor. So Chris Hemsworth, his main stunt double is Bobby Holland Hanton. And again, even though a great deal of stuff is done CGI these days, there's still an old-fashioned way of saying, look, we need a perspective double in some shape or form. And they bring Paul in. So Paul would have done that as well. And it's fascinating to think that they use all this even now with all this technology we have. But sometimes, if it ain't broke, you don't change it. I was re-looking at a lot of that Superman footage when I did the episode last week, and the stuff they were doing there in camera is spectacular, really spectacular, so clever. That now, does it take? I was watching. What was I watching? What's the Brandon Rouse picture? There's a lot of great flying stuff in that, but you think a huge amount of that is CGI. And in the old days, they would have done it for real. They'd have literally put somebody on a wire and flung them down the street and a crane and brought them around. It had this huge amount of reality to it. It doesn't lose anything. It doesn't take anything away from the excitement of the picture. But I don't know. Something says they don't make them like that anymore, and they don't. That's true. But this is just a brief look, and I wanted to add this in. So that I'd made a promise and said, look, there's something else I want to tell you about. Well, it's perspective. So have a look at some of the movies, and if you are questioning whether is that real or is that somebody of size, doing this in a slightly different way, well, question it, look at it, research it, and find out. And maybe this will be a start point for you to understand it. But look out for these new movies that come out with Paul, and you can explore his work. Check him out on IMDb, Paul Lowe, Lowe, and you can look at all of the work that he's done there, and many fabulous photographs, as all of these guys. So their names are up there, the spellings are up there, so you can check them all. And until next time, thanks for joining. See ya. Bye.